welcome to Return to Home with Michele Broxton, where we focus on 100-year-old vintage recipe favorites, the kind that your great-grandma and my great-grandma probably made over a wood stove. We're in my farm kitchen today, and I thought we'd start out with one of my very all-time favorites, fried chicken, and we're gonna make it the country way. So I got some of my kids' favorite pieces, and I thought we'd just start out that way. And I got us some thighs, and I got us some legs, and I just left the skin on. So we're just gonna get started. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about is before you get started doing this, after you wash your chicken, I would go ahead and get your grease started. Now, I like to use large cast iron for all of my fried things. You're gonna find me using cast iron a lot in this, so if you haven't already ordered your cast iron and you wanna cook along, head on over to our website at ozarkfarms.org and I'll guide you into whether you should get like the enamel kind or the black kind. I'm gonna show you how to take care of it, and we're just gonna have a good time learning how to cook in cast iron, because I mean 100 years ago that's what they had. So we're just gonna get real good and comfortable with cast iron. One of the most important things to me about fried chicken is that it's crispy. So I'm gonna walk you through how I do my famous fried chicken and make it crispy. Okay, so the first things first, we're gonna start by making our buttermilk. Now, if you don't have buttermilk on hand, which is pretty common because who has buttermilk on hand? We're gonna make our own buttermilk, and you can make it from just regular milk. So let's see, this is 3 cups. I'm glad I looked at that. I didn't have my glasses on. So this is 3 cups. I don't think I'm gonna quite need 3 cups. I'm gonna put 2 cups of milk in our container. That's right. And then I'm going to squeeze in 2 halves of lemon, and that is going to make our buttermilk. Perfect. One more. If you're not using regular lemons and you're just using lemon juice, that'll be just fine. You want to use a tablespoon of lemon juice per cup of milk. Now, this is not a get skinny cooking show, so I'll just warn you right now, I'm using whole milk. You can use any kind of milk you'd like to. I'm using whole milk. We're gonna stir that around until the lemon juice is completely mixed in with the milk. That looks just fine. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make our flour mixture. So I think what I'll do is, it's gonna take quite a bit of flour to do all this chicken. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my milk in this bowl. The nice thing about cooking is as you're doing it, you can just kind of decide what works best for you and do that. Nobody wants to eat a lemon seed with their chicken. There, that'll be just fine. I'm gonna dry this bowl out and we're gonna put our flour in here. Now for the fun part. My general rule of thumb is I really like for my flour to be not just white like this. I really want it to look like it has a color to it. So we're gonna measure out some flour, you and I. Now, how much flour you use really depends on how much chicken you use. So I'm gonna measure out several cups of flour in here. Now this is one time you'll see me scoop flour right out of the container because we're not measuring it to be exact, we're measuring it for chicken. I'm gonna start with about 3 cups of flour. That might be a little too much, and you don't wanna use a tremendous amount too much because you cannot reuse anything that you use for chicken. Now, I'm gonna put into this I'm going to put in soul food seasoning that I have made from home. And like I said, I really like for my chicken to have a lot of flavor. So I'm gonna put about that much per 3 cups of flour. I also like to put in some poultry seasoning. So if you don't have that, you can also use rotisserie chicken seasoning. Any kind of good old chicken seasoning will do. Now y'all may not want to do this step, but I like a little heat in my fried chicken, and so I put a little extra chili powder in there. We're just gonna put a tiny bit. I cannot wait to eat this. And I can't wait for y'all to eat it. I think you're really gonna love it. So we're gonna give this a good stir and just mix all of this together. And like I said, if you're doing chicken, your flour shouldn't look just completely white. You really want it to have a nice color to it. So if you can get right in here, you can see that this is really a nice color, and you can see all of the spices speckled in your flour. Oh, and you can smell it too. It smells really good. So once that's mixed all the way in, we're gonna do what you might imagine we'd do next. We're gonna start dipping our chicken. I'm gonna flip these around. I like to work from left to right. You can do it however you'd like to do it. You can use tongs if you want to, that's fine. I'm just gonna get my hands dirty. My hands are clean. So we're gonna do our chicken legs first. Now I've already washed these with just plain old water and put them in this bowl. What we're gonna do first is we're gonna dip them in buttermilk, then flour, then buttermilk, then flour, and then set them out to put them in our grease. There we go. I like to put a lot of flour on mine. Now once you get the flour on here, you want to handle it as little as possible, because your fingers are going to start to get a lot of moisture on them, and it'll actually pull your breading back off. Let's do it again. Sometimes if I'm feeling picky, I'll use tongs. Usually I just use my fingers. Now some people will also do an egg wash or an egg mixture. That's fine too. Really, for the wet part, you can do just about anything you want to, as long as it tastes good to you. Okay. To me, chicken, like fried chicken, just feels like a good old Sunday dinner, or maybe a summer barbecue. Either way, you can't go wrong. It's one of my very favorite comfort foods. Things I like to make with fried chicken are mashed potatoes, of course, because you gotta have something real good to go with the gravy. You can also make biscuits, you could have rolls, you could have, so you could have macaroni and cheese. You've gotta have some kind of good dessert like pie, cobbler. So you'll notice my fingers have quite the coating on them. I'm just using basically these same 3 fingers over and over and over again, so that I'm not pulling the breading back off of my chicken. It's amazing how much flour you go through when you're making fried chicken, if you double dip it like I do. You know, I'd love for you to write me and tell me how you do your fried chicken. And if you try this, and let me know if you like it. I'm gonna lay these on here a little bit differently because I'm gonna need some room for some chicken thighs. One of my favorite things about cooking is when you kind of get into a rhythm in your kitchen and it's quiet and it's clean-ish. And you can just, you're cooking and you feel like you're taking care of your family, but you can kind of let your mind drift and you can think about other things. Like maybe what you're gonna plant in your garden next year, or maybe a project that you're working on that you're excited about. or maybe even something you're worried about with your family or your kids. I like that. It makes me feel better about whatever I'm thinking about. Doesn't that look good? That is some good fried chicken. Now you can take the skin off if you want to. My mama's real health conscious and she takes the skin off. I don't. I eat the skin first when it's fried because I think it's real good. It's real crispy. I'm probably a product of my generation. I don't want to be on a diet. I want to eat fried chicken. And listen, you're not going to get too much flour on here. I mean, anything that'll fall off will fall off, and you can kind of shake it a little bit, and that'll be fine. Now sometimes, I'll show you what to do. Sometimes you run out of room on your serving dish over here, and that's okay. I'll show you what to do, because that's about to happen to me. And I'll show you what to do. What I do is I'll scoop my flour over just like this, and I'll just leave my chicken right in the flour. And then you can work on your last piece. I think we're gonna end up just about right. Just about right. Try to not get that buttermilk all over that other piece, if I can help it. This just looks like, looks like you're playing and something your kids are playing with you, but this is what this is what makes chicken good. Okay, I think that's good. I'm gonna clean my hands off and we're gonna go over to the cast iron skillet and we're gonna fry some chicken. Now, I know, because I've done this a million times, that this grease is hot enough and it's ready. But if you are curious as to whether or not it's hot enough and ready, you can take a little piece of something you've got loose. Let's see, let's find something and you can put it in there. We're gonna take a little piece of something and just put it in there and see how it sizzles. Your grease is ready. Now, you may notice that I am not deep frying this chicken. I am pan frying this chicken. There's a difference. Pan fried chicken means you're only gonna have your grease about halfway up. And when you put it in, you never wanna put it in with your fingers. You wanna put it in nice and slow so that the grease doesn't splash back on you, okay? Now this was my mama's and probably my grandma's, and I have used it and used it and used it and used it. I am not gonna put any more in here right now because that grease is just a touch bit too hot. Now that we've fried up all of this marvelous fried chicken with the skin on it, I just can't wait to peel it off and eat it too, y'all. We are gonna sprinkle on a little bit of parsley. Now you don't have to do this, but I like to do it, and I just think it makes it look so pretty on the plate. Plus, it kind of makes your fried chicken feel like a little bit of a salad. So we're gonna sprinkle this parsley right across the top. You can use fresh or dried, whichever is in season, whichever you like best. Now that is good home cooking. Next, we're gonna head over to the stove and we're gonna use the drippings and some of the grease from our fried chicken and make some good old milk chicken gravy. Making homemade gravy is one of the daunting tasks of being a homemade cook, and I'm going to show you how to do it, and it really is only 3 parts. The part that makes it really good is this part right here. It's after you finish cooking any meat, whether it's sausage, bacon, fried chicken, anything like that, you want to leave a little bit of your grease and what's called your drippings in the pan. Then you're going to put a little bit of flour in there to soak up that grease. You're going to fry that all together and get it nice and brown. Then you're going to add your milk and stir like your life depends on it. Got those 3 steps? Let's make some homemade chicken gravy. I'd say we can go ahead and get started. Now remember, what you're trying to do is really just soak up all that gravy and make what's called a roux. This is not a fancy people roux. This is a good home cooking roux. Now for this part, I just use a wooden spoon. Now when you get to this point, you want to have your milk all the way ready. And let this get a nice golden brown. See how nice and brown that is? All right, we're just about ready for our whisk. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my whisk. I'm going to get that all mixed together. A little more brown. This really just is a matter of taste. Once you start adding your milk, like remember, this is the 3rd step. Stir like your life depends on it. Now if you'll notice, I add this a little bit at a time, stir it in. A little bit at a time, stir it in. There will be a point in time where you get absolutely petrified and you think that you've messed it up. You haven't. Just keep stirring and keep adding milk. Now I'm going to turn my fire down just a little bit. Now at this point, your gravy is basically made, and what you want to do is add in a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, and you can add as much or as little milk as you'd like to, depending on how much gravy you want to make. This is a great base. You could fill this all the way up, or you can leave it like it is. The longer you cook it, the thicker it's going to get. And then on the opposite end of it, the colder it gets, the thicker it's going to get. I'm going to stir this just a little bit and let it thicken up. Folks, in about 2 minutes, you're going to have the most perfect gravy you ever made in your life. And just remember, 1, 2, 3. Start with your grease, add your flour, and then put your milk in and stir like your life depends on it. Let's put this on some chicken. Now that we've made our good old 100-year-old recipe, fried chicken, let's put on our milk gravy that we just made in our cast iron skillet. You can make as much or as little milk gravy as you'd like. This also goes fantastic on mashed potatoes. I hope you had a great time today on Return to Home with Michele Broxton. We're just having such a great time here with 100-year-old vintage recipe favorites, just like our great-great-grandmas did over their wood stove. I hope you join me next time. We're going to be cooking up more of your and my family favorites.